So, all right. All right, so I did this. So yes, I'm from Portland, Oregon. I've been climbing for about 6 or 7 years and 5 years in the open source space. About a year ago, I looked into OpenStreetMap, and I wanted to make a map of all the climbs in the USA. But to my surprise, there are very little data in OpenStreetMap when it comes to rock climbing. I went over to Europe, and voila, there are a lot of data. So, but then I wanted to, as a technical person, I can log in and edit. It's still a learning curve to edit to contribute to OpenStreetMap, let alone my rock climbing friends. Telling them to log in, use the ID editor would be a very difficult task. So in this talk, I will talk about the app that I'm working on, hoping to make it easier for my friends and other rock climbers to add data into OpenStreetMap. And yeah, I just want to say that this is super informal. If you feel free to interrupt me if you have questions, and yeah. And also, I see that there are 2 other OpenStreetMap related talk after me, so I won't go into too much detail on the technical side. So this is what I've done last year. I query OpenStreetMap. I want to get all the objects that are tagged with that sport equals climbing tag. And as you can see, there are a lot of them in Europe. And like USA, we have about 200 probably. So so I want to set up a personal mission to change that. Well, thankfully, I'm not working out of a vacuum, because there are several websites and forums where I can look up all the information about the climbs. So they are very fragmented. One website is really good. It's called Mountain Project. You can look at the website, you can browse the site, but you cannot bulk download. As a computer person, I want to write an API. I want to make my own maps, and it's not possible. The license is kind of unclear what I cannot do with the data. So yeah, so it's a journey. So the app that I'm working on, the first, I guess, goal that I wanted to do is to aggregate the climbing data from a couple websites into one, and then put them into OpenStreetMap, and then add some sort of search capability, so you can search. Like if you use Airbnb, you go to Brussels, you want to narrow your search to a radius, filter by price range. I like to do something like that for a climbing app. And yes, another thing I want to mention is, by having this app, hopefully it will simplify how people would input data into OpenStreetMap. And most importantly, I would like to give people the ability to download the data. You can go directly to OpenStreetMap if you know how to use the REST API, the overpass. Or if you want a climbing specific API, that's where my project hopefully will make it easier. And so just a summary, I'm going to talk about one technical challenge that I'm have to deal with when working on this project, and then one non-technical challenge, which is how to convince the community to contribute. So just a quick high-level overview. The web app is Leaflet and React.js, and then backend I have a REST API in Flask, SQL Alchemy, the usual suspect, and PostGIS database, mobile apps in progress. So as you can see, you have OpenStreetMap over there, and you have my database over here. While having two. So I envision the database is going to be like a staging area where people can input and edit, and then once it passes, community validation, we can push them into OpenStreetMap. I'm debating, should I do that in OpenStreetMap? I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, I follow the mailing list and the pros and cons of that approach. So before I go on further, let me define what climbing data is. So if you rock climb, you probably have heard people talk about beta. So beta is, if rock climbing routes are Git repos, beta would be the README file. So first and very important piece of data is, of course, the location. Where is the climb? Where is it? And what are all the climbs next to it? And then another pieces of information are, the difficulty, how hard is the climb, where all the holes are, what kind of equipment you need to bring with you, is this dangerous or loose rock you need to watch out for, how long is the climb? Yeah, it's very subjective. It's some people refuse to read this. They just want to go on and climb and kind of enjoy the adventure themselves. And some people love to read it. Like engineer, where sometimes we read manuals, sometimes we just go straight to using it. So my app, skip. And the third piece of data is like personal anecdote, story. I have climbed it before, I didn't like it, or I love it. And then discussion about that climb. So I would like to focus on the first part, which is where the climbs are, because there are many websites that are dealing with the second and the third point. Yeah, everyone good? So how do I model the climbing routes and wall? And then multiple walls in OpenStreetMap. I'd like to show you some photo. This is a climbing area near my hometown, Smith Rock. As you can see, climbs are next to one another. And then if you look at it on the map, they are just one long cliff. From a mapper point of view, it's just a cliff. But from a climber point of view, they are two separate sections. The red section, the blue section, they name differently, they organize differently. So that's something I need to keep in mind. And then if you zoom out, the whole area of the climbing area, you can see that there are multiple sectors, and then within a sector you can have another sector. So they can have multiple nested level. And the outermost area is what I would call a climbing destination. So I say I go to Catalonia, Spain. That's like the climbing destination. And then in Spain, I would have multiple sub areas. So let's get back to OpenStreetMap. So I need to define the climb, the wall, and then the sector. So the climb, self-explanatory. I use the OpenStreetMap node object, which is a single point. Keep in mind, there's some proposal in OpenStreetMap where people suggesting that I mark the start of the climb and the end of the climb. It can be a challenge when the climb is very vertical, so you would have the start and the end on top of another. So I would save that for the future. For now, it's just a single point. And then to represent a climbing wall, I use ways, which is a series of ordered, a list of nodes. All right, and then how do I model a groups of walls or sector, group of climbs? One way is to use a closed way, but I found out pretty soon that it's not intuitive to use in OpenStreetMap. You can't not just simply draw a polygon and save it. There's a lot of issue with that. Let's say there's a path that goes this way. I can't just draw a polygon over it. I have to connect my polygon to the path and then continue. So imagine there's a map of the park. There would be many paths and objects. I cannot just draw my polygon on top. So I choose to go with relation. So relations is another data element in OpenStreetMap that allows you to model, to logically group nodes or ways or other relations together. So so relation it is. All right. So this is a photo of my friend Manny. He's hanging on the rope and looks like he's smoking a cigarette, but no, he just drilling a hole in the rock, and then he has to blow out the dust in the rock before he can put the bolt in. So it's a labor-intensive work, and it's a labor of love. He put a lot of time and effort into this. So what happened after this, he would find out the location of the climb, and he would share that with someone in his local community, and that person might go on the Mountain Project website and submit it, and then all the people can view it. But as a GIS enthusiast, I cannot just go and bulk download all of the work that people have put in due to unclear license. So yeah, the point I want to make is, the technical challenge can be overcome. There's Stack Overflow and internet, and it's not too bad. But to convince the community that to open up all of your data, put them in OpenStreetMap, is it's an uphill battle. So I just put the chicken and egg there. The classic problem. My app is brand new. I have little data. How do people going to contribute? And then if I have more data, people might contribute. So my goal again, I like to simplify the data entry so that they can go into OpenStreetMap. And secondly, I want to see OpenStreetMap with correct data. By that I mean I actually hoping to scrape. Okay, terrible. I'm going to scrape the Mountain Project website and negotiate with them, convince them to open up their data. So people have data to work with, and then they can continue to improve it. 6 minutes. Yes. So I realize changes won't happen overnight, and just keep sharing and listening to the community's feedback. And there's one example of many of the things you can do with open data in rock climbing. For example, I scraped the data from that Mountain Project website and built a heat map of all the climbing walls in the the western part of the USA. You can, for example, correlate this data with, hey, I'm a rock climber, where should I move to? Obviously, people would love to go to Denver or Boulder, where all the climbs are, or California, where Yosemite is. Or you can do cool things like, the craft beer consumption on top of this. Or on a more serious note, the outdoor retailer industry can map how people spend money in proximity with the climbing area. So this is the end. I have stickers. You want stickers? The project's on GitHub. I would love to hear your ideas. Pull request. Or just say hi. I have time for a Q. Any questions? Yes. Yes. So your question was whether I wanted to map absolute and relative location. I'm bringing that up to explain what beta. It's a lingo in rock climbing. To tap when you look for a climb, you want to know where it is or what's around it. But to map the climbing route, I would just map the climb itself. And then just to show them in relation to all the climbs. And you have a question? Sorry.
No, I was doing something like that. I was scrapping the webpage 8a.nu. I don't know if you.
Yes.
And I download all the data because they have a lot of waypoints with the cracks. And my point was more like doing the map and show the weather and the climbing rates and filter by climbing rates and where you can climb in summer or winter or what. And I made more or less the same. I have a React.js application, but it's broken right now.
Yeah.
And a backend with a PHP. I download all the data.
Yeah.
I don't know the license, so maybe.
Yeah. So please send me an email. I would love to talk to you more about it.
Yeah. Because I have done in Google Maps.
Yeah.
To
Yeah. Excellent. I think one more.
Do you know the application Street Complete?
Yes, I heard of it.
Maybe you could change that one to have quests for just for climbing.
Yeah. Good point.
And one important point for the data is what we have missing is, for example, in Germany, we have breeding times for birds. And during that time, there are some rocks where you are not prohibited to climb.
Right.
And that's an extremely important information to have that.
Yeah. Right. So should I keep that in my data set or defer that to the other website? Yeah, okay. Like store hours, should I keep the store hours in my data set or? Okay, I'll think about that.
Good information, I think, to have in this chat.
Okay, closure.
Is it open or not?
True. Yeah, in my area, there's some eagle nesting, so we're forbidden to climb, like half of the year for the eagle to nest.
Yeah.
So.
There are also certain routes that are just for trad climbing, and some routes are bolted. Condition of the bolt is sort of
Right.
information that. So if I'm going somewhere, I need to know whether that's
Exactly.
trad, and then I need to bring a lot of different equipment.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of more like a wave app. When you see traffic jam, you can hit traffic jam. So it's just like a foundation where hopefully people can build on top of.
These are the ones that works in France is Camp to Camp.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
That works really well, and for each route, a lot.
Yeah, True. I'm hoping to focus in the U.S. and once get that going, I can negotiate with them and, scrap their data or ask them nicely, download.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.